I fell in love with Ernest Hemingway 50 years ago probably, and I've chosen to read 3 short vignettes by Hemingway. They come from 1924. He published a little book of mostly paragraphs. The longest one of these 3 is, well, yes, they're very short indeed, 1 paragraph each. They're not consecutive in the book. They're, in fact, the 8th, the 16th, and the last one, the 18th, in this tiny book called In Our Time. And the first vignette is about war, and the second one is about bullfighting, and well, we'll come to the third one. And the other reason I chose Hemingway is simply that I felt that Hemingway, of all the writers I liked very much indeed, was probably the one, because of his vocabulary and his style, was probably the one who lost least in translation. While the bombardment was knocking the trench to pieces at Fossalta, he lay very flat and sweated and prayed, "Oh, Jesus Christ, get me out of here. Dear Jesus, please get me out. Christ, please, 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 Christ. If only you'll keep me from getting killed, I'll do anything you say. I believe in you, and I'll tell everyone in the world that you are the only thing that matters. Please, please, dear Jesus." The shelling moved further up the line. We went to work on the trench, and in the morning, the sun came up, and the day was hot and muggy and cheerful and quiet. The next night, back at Mestre, he did not tell the girl he went upstairs with at the Villa Rossa about Jesus, and he never told anybody. Myra lay still, his head on his arms, his face in the sand. He felt warm and sticky from the bleeding. Each time he felt the horn coming. Sometimes the bull only bumped him with his head. Once the horn went all the way through him, and he felt it go into the sand. Someone had the bull by the tail. They were swearing at him and flopping the cape in his face. Then the bull was gone. Some men picked Myra up and started to run with him toward the barriers, through the gate, out the passageway, around under the grandstand to the infirmary. They laid Myra down on a cot, and one of the men went out for the doctor. The others stood around. The doctor came running from the corral where he had been sewing up picador horses. He had to stop and wash his hands. There was a great shouting going on in the grandstand overhead. Myra wanted to say something and found he could not talk. Myra felt everything getting larger and larger, and then smaller and smaller. Then it got larger and larger and larger, and then smaller and smaller. Then everything commenced to run faster and faster, as fast as when they speed up a cinematograph film. Then he was dead. The king was working in the garden. He seemed very glad to see me. We walked through the garden. "This is the queen," he said. She was clipping a rose bush. "Oh, how do you do?" she said. We sat down at a table under a big tree, and the king ordered whiskey and soda. "We have good whiskey anyway," he said. The Revolutionary Committee, he told me, would not allow him to go outside the palace grounds. "Plastiras is a very good man, I believe," he said, "but frightfully difficult. I think he did right, though, shooting those chaps. If Kerensky had shot a few men, things might have been altogether different. Of course, the great thing in this sort of thing, in this sort of an affair, is not to be shot yourself." It was very jolly, We talked for a long time. Like all Greeks, he wanted to go to America. Thank you.